There it is. Okay, I think we're live and we're rolling. You guys let me know how you're hearing this, if it's coming through loud and clear. I'm Gavin Seim. Welcome to the Gavin Seim Show. We're live here. It's Sunday night on January 7th, 2024. And we're going to talk about, well, we're kind of going to talk about what no one else wants to talk about today. However, I'm going to let you guys get in there, throw your comments around. We're going to chat a little. And like I do so often on our main topic for the show, I'm going to do that right in the middle. So you got to hang with me for a few minutes as we kind of do our initial prep. And you guys let me know what you think about today's topic and the things that surround it. And then we'll do our main topic, because that way I can cut that out and I can actually put a video here on the channel, because as many of you know, there's a fly in here. It's pretty cold. There shouldn't be a fly. I hear you. Where is he? He's sneaky because he comes around when he knows I'm not looking and when I'm focused on you guys. We're going to talk today about this Ammon Bundy case as soon as we get to our main topic for the day, because Ammon Bundy left. He didn't show up for court. Finally, I absolutely love when people deny these psychopaths that are called judges and justice system in any country in the world, when they just spit in their face, like I did. That's a dangerous thing to say, because when you step on the egos of these mental cases that run around in robes, sentencing people to prison and to death and taking their stuff and taking their children, when you come against them, they will come down hard. That's why I went to another country. That's why I also, people say, Gavin, you ran. And I'm like, just wait. The amount of flack I caught for leaving, being called a coward, being said I ran, I'm a coward, you ran away, we needed you in America. Really? Because are people fighting? Or are we scrapping over backing the blue line, backing the Israeli state, or backing the politicians? Do we have freedom? It costs me a lot to leave, but the longer you wait to leave, the more it costs. I'll come back to that thought in our main topic, because what I want to do in today's show, so we don't do it too long, I want to chat with you guys a little bit. But what I want to do in today's show is also keep it condensed so we can discuss the situation that you guys have been seeing with Ammon Bundy, what's going on with Ammon Bundy, what's the deal. But it's not just about Ammon Bundy, and that's why I think it's very important to do a show. And as always, I'm going to extend it out a little bit, because I have some personal insight on this. So good to see you all guys in the chat. I'm looking through there, and thank you all. Hit that like, share this, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button. MR, thank you. Thank you to our channel backers. I try to be on at least once a week. I was on last week. The past couple months have been a little slow for me because I've been working on some of my other projects. I'm going to get this fly before our main topic, so just bear with me on that. But yeah, we had a live show last week, a New Year's show. I'm trying to do a video, whether it's live, whether it's a non-live, every week for all you guys, but especially for the channel backers on here. I'm not a popular channel because I'm not out getting arrested very much anymore. But I appreciate you guys' support. And yes, I mean, we're surrounded by cowardice, by propaganda, and we got to make sure we don't fall into it, because I see this a lot, right? What they do is, if they're not getting you with one thing, oh, we're losing, the people are the patriots, right? They're not supporting this, so we got to give something to divide them. They're always going to turn the two parties, Republican against Democrat, police lovers against police haters. I support the Israeli state no matter what crimes they commit against people that say, hold on, shouldn't we be judging people by their actions, right? They're always going to divide us against each other. And that's how they keep us ignorant and stupid. They give us toys, they give us TV, they give us beer, they give us entertainment, bread, and circuses. And the result is they keep us weak while they get stronger and stronger and stronger. And I appreciate it, MR. And yeah, leaving is hard. We've talked about leaving. I've done videos on this channel about getting refugee status. I get direct messages from people fairly often that are escaping themselves, that are refusing to show up to court. And I absolutely do help people to avoid those things. No one should be subjected to the U.S. justice system. It is a system of terrorism and a system run by psychopaths. That's not to say that there's never bad people being prosecuted in the justice system. You know, as someone who tries to be a realist, right? I've never said I was an anarchist. I'm more of a libertarian in my mindset. But depending on who you ask, there's no difference. But what I've seen is people are inherently bad. And you see that a lot. Mexico is a lot more libertarian, wild, wild west, right? You can get away with a lot more. And so you see people in different ways than in the US. Not that there's not lots of bad behavior in the US, but you see in different ways that you can manipulate that. The fact that there's more personal liberty can be used. When people have more personal liberty, they're not responsible with it as a society. They abuse it as much as possible. Now, that doesn't mean you don't fight for personal liberty, because fascism is worse. So you have to have a means to defend your life, your liberty, your property, and to have a justice system. You can't simply let rapists keep on raping and robbers keep on robbing, although that seems to be what happens under most justice systems, because the biggest rapers and robbers are the government and their enforcers. And that seems to be true in any country. And yes, you're probably right. If YouTube hadn't switched the algorithms to the lowest common denominator, and I've talked about this quite a bit, and I talked about how they use, even the short videos have dumbed society down to the point where there's no attention span. It's all about, even the videos on short videos, TikToks. When you go to this city, make sure you go to this secret spot. Like, everything is just made up. I was watching a travel channel recently, and he was making fun of TikTok videos about Prague tourism because they were just literally just making up crap that had no bearing on the real city of Prague and what the tourism like is, where you should go, what was a secret house. It was just crap. And it kind of struck me because even when it's non-quote controversial things, these short videos are low effort, mostly plagiarized garbage that are simply lying because they know that it's all about getting your attention within 1 second. It's a low effort thing that's using an algorithm meant to appeal to the lowest common denominator of people's intelligence. That's what short videos are for. They're meant to appeal to the lowest common denominator of your intelligence. I'm not saying they're never entertaining or that they're never funny, but they're rarely true. They rarely are real scenarios. They rarely are real stories. They rarely are real people. It's like the reality TV for a generation who has an attention span of 5 seconds. And they're really doing an incredible amount to dumb people down. And so those algorithms have all been brought into all the video channels now. So you no longer see what you subscribe to, you see what the algorithm and the AIs have figured out for your specific brain will allow you to stay at the lowest common denominator. This is why I hate these short videos, and I refuse to just sit there. It's not that I never will watch a short video if it comes up contextually to what I'm looking for, but I just won't open TikTok and flip through videos. I won't do it on YouTube. And if I find myself doing it, I stop myself. What am I doing? I have real things to do. I don't want what the algorithm wants to feed me, because the algorithm is the corporations and the governments that are sending us to prisons, that are dumbing us down, that are killing us, that are taking our life, our liberty, and our property, and that want to make us stupid. That's what the algorithm is for. Remember when YouTube, when internet came out, it was about you can have access to all the information. When YouTube got big, it was like you can learn, you can find anything. And the truth is, if you try and you're actually searching for it, you still can. But if you take what the algorithm gives you, the goal of trying to make you better, more intelligent, more educated, and smarter is long gone on these video sites, because that's not where the money is. Making people intelligent does not make money for the system. Yeah, they need intelligent people here and there. But if everyone progresses in intelligence, in love for each other, in knowledge of their rights, of science, of construction, of logic, that's really, really bad for governments and their corporate friends. Because if you do that, when you start to critical think, and I see the same here in Mexico, everybody just absorbed and flipping through videos, even though there's a lot more kind of self-sufficiency and independence on a local level here than in most European countries, they're trying their best to destroy that. They're just not very organized about it. But the algorithms are still doing it to people. It's about making you a hive, a crowd of ignorance. Okay, that was a rant. I do that a lot. But you let me know if I was on point with that, because that's the reality of what's happening with content on the internet, with video, with algorithms, with search. You can, if you know how to search and you practice and you pay attention, you can still search and find things. But you got to know how to sift around the crap, because usually the stuff right at the top is not what you're looking for. The system wants you to be dumb. Are you going to do it or no? Okay, back to your comments before we start the main show. Just looking, I appreciate what you've done, but you've insulted my intelligence with your stupidity on how to cross the border. I don't even know what that means, Steve, but thank you for appreciating what I've done. And yeah, anyone who supports a closed border is definitely part of the problem. They're part of Blue ISIS. And this is the problem. This is where I lost a lot of people when I came against the police. Now, a lot of people have come around on that over the past few years since I came against the police and started calling them Blue ISIS, because they're seeing more and more. And in time, people are going to come around, the people that are still slow in terms of learning the truth, that don't want to wake up, that would rather watch the news and hear the propaganda of the Border Patrol and the government and their politicians and whatever faction they're a part of, and think like, oh, immigrants are taking our jobs. Oh, they're coming here and they're terrorists. And if you look at the violence on the border, the governments that these people are supporting, their sheriffs, their police, their governors, and their presidents, from Texas to California, and all the way along, they are the ones who created the violence with their walls, their restrictions, their unconstitutional immigration controls, their drug war, and their fascism. And if you support that, you are Blue ISIS. You're a part of their crimes. If you support buoys letting people drown in the river, you are a part of a system that opposes liberty and God and justice and human kindness. You are a part of a system that supports fascism. If you support immigration restrictions and papers of people being locked in cages because they crossed a dumb, asinine, imaginary line in the sand that you thought made you special, you are either a criminal or you are criminally ignorant. And I'm not afraid to say it. I've never been afraid to tell you guys the truth on this channel. I got something in my eye. Maybe I finally got that fly. I've never been afraid. That's not true. Sometimes I'm afraid, because it costs me. You don't see my channel being popular. You see the channels being popular that appeal to a specific faction. But I'm not going to play games. I'm seeing too many people die. I'm seeing too many people suffer, and I feel it. This is the problem with me. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that at one point in my life, I went to God and I said, hey, help me be compassionate, because I felt like maybe I wasn't enough. And that worked. But the problem is I feel it. It's like a current. Sometimes I walk by people. They'll probably say I'm crazy for this too. I'll drive by someone on the road and I can feel sadness or joy. I'll see them walking by and it's just it's like there's a wave that kind of sweeps over me. so it's like there's this constant burden of feeling a world that is broken and suffering and filled with hate. And I don't know if you guys understand that. I think the more we seek compassion and love for our fellow man, instead of being self-righteous and religious and prattling fools and preachers, if we actually look to love our neighbor and act like Christ, which none of us are very good at, I'll admit, me included, but I think that does change how we think. But I don't know, sometimes it disturbs me how much sensitivity and how much it bothers me, the things that are going on around me, even when they're not connected to me. And what frustrates me the most is that I can't do anything about it because I'm not wealthy. I'm not successful in any sense of this. And so if I roll up, and down here, I don't fit into the culture even. So it's difficult, even if I like fight for somebody and stand up to the cops, they kind of see me as a crazy in a different way than they did in the States because I'm like the outsider. And it really hurts to watch suffering and not have the resources or the power to do anything about it. And I know there's like my, the have peace Christian type approach of I'm praying for you, or what can I do for you? Can I help? Most people say they're loving their neighbor by just saying just that. And this is what happens in most of the churches. They're loving their neighbor. Most of the churches in Texas are loving their neighbor while supporting the police that murder the poor, lock them in prisons, and drown them in rivers. That's our churches. If we had a church of Christ, they would be on the river pushing the border patrol into it while they reached a hand to the immigrant trying to cross over. And that would be how they show Christ. It's literally in the Bible. Even in the Old Testament, he said, you treat the foreigner as if they were a citizen. He didn't, after that, put, but only if they have papers. Because if they're an undocumented immigrant, they're probably going to take your jobs. It's absolutely ridiculous what we've come to and what people do in the name of God. And that hurts. And I feel like a lot of times just having compassion is good. But I feel like it's like when Jesus told the parable about, when someone comes to you and says they're hungry and you say, go in peace, be you warm and full. But you did nothing for them. And that's what I see happening all over the world. So yeah, I mean, I know there's craziness and all this stuff going on, and maybe we all need to be more empaths. But I have a problem in that I feel a lot. Nothing wrong with helping others and following some immigration, but a flood, but not a flood. No, there's no flood. There's no one giving up their house. This is literally bullcrap that you're watching on the news from terrorist police and politicians who are literally coming to steal your house if you don't pay taxes on what your family paid for 50 years ago. Do you hear how stupid you sound? I'm sorry, because I am compassionate for your stupidity also. But do you hear how absolutely ignorant you sound when you say this stuff? Nothing wrong with helping others, but when immigrants are flooding us, you be the first one to give up your house. Do you know how many years I've heard this absolute rubbish and it's never happened? It's never the case. They're never taking your jobs. They're never taking your houses. It's never real. The government is creating the crime, and the government is making sure that the hardworking, good souls that would be your neighbors are the ones that can't come in, because the government is not stopping the real criminals from coming in. The cartels who are working with the CIA, who are working with your governors and presidents to traffic drugs for money, and the gangs and traffic arms and all this kind of stuff that they're actually throwing you in the news as what people are doing. Those are the people they're actually allowing to do their business as long as they give them a cut. And I just can't believe how ignorant, and I don't care if you live on the border, I don't care if you claim you see firsthand. What you see firsthand is a government that created an artificial drug war, a government that created unconstitutional immigration restrictions, a government that created a violent, toxic situation where people are fleeing across the border, where criminals are coming in trying to avoid the government, and the normal people that want to do it right are suffering, and you're participating in it because you're so ignorant and godless and foolish that you can't sit down and look at a Bible or look at your neighbor and say, you know what? I'm supposed to care about people. And I'm sick of it. I'm tired of seeing it. I'm tired of the excuses. I'm tired of the endless, repetitive propaganda. No, you didn't come up with it. No, you don't know it because you're there and because you live on the border. You are saying it because it's being fed into your sheep, soft, supple brain, and you're too ignorant to get over your racism, your hypocrisy, and your hate for your fellow man. That's the problem. You don't love your neighbor. You don't want to be like Christ. You don't want to be kind. You don't want freedom. You want to be on the top of the heap with the poor people sitting underneath you. And that's the problem. No one's asking you to give up your home. No one's asking you to allow people to violate your property, your family, or rob your house. The problems at that border did not exist that you're talking about right now, those who live in Texas, those who, I live on the border. And I see these kind of crap hole propaganda videos all the time from people like, we have a ranch on the border, we see this. I know some of those kind of ranchers. They're people that have money, they have 10,000 acres. They ride around in their fancy cars and their Lexuses. Are those even fancy anymore? And they're like, oh, well, we got to support our local sheriffs because the immigration, it's just really bad. No, immigration is not bad. Immigration is a human right. Period. And you don't have to have papers for it. What caused all of this is the fear-mongering racism propaganda that you're promoting when you repeat this stuff, when you're ignorant enough to not wake up and say, wait a minute, I'm just repeating what talking heads, politicians, governors, and robbing, thieving, lying, crooked police that will literally come and kill me and steal my home and sell it to someone else if I don't pay them to own it. Can you hear yourselves? And you're looking at a poor immigrant wearing rags crossing the river with his 3 kids, and you have the blasted audacity to say, they need to follow the rules. They're invading my country. They're creating violence. Go to hell. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the ignorance. And I know we're all in different places. And I know I rant sometimes. And I see a comment sometimes and I go off on you. But it's not about any one person. It's about all of us collectively waking up and stop. I know I was dumb too. And in some ways I probably still am. We're humans. We're ignorant. We're easily led astray. But this is ridiculous, you guys. When you look, if you want to talk about borders and immigration, when you look at Texas, when you look at the absolute psychopaths running that state, the absolute psychopaths of police, and when I see people in here and they're supporting the Border Patrol, they're supporting agents down there, pointing guns at poor people, because what? They want to come and work? Are you out of your mind? Send your community. Send your peacekeepers to stop actual crime. If someone's raiding your ranch, yeah, go send them to arrest those people. But until you can get your head out of your behind, I don't want to be vulgar here, so we'll put it nicely. Just stop. Just shut up. It doesn't matter that you live on the border. You're not special. What you're seeing is what you created by supporting the fascist goons that you put in office because you thought you were better than your fellow man. And I'm speaking generally, I know. I know everybody on the border doesn't feel this way. I know that all Texans aren't bad. I understand that. But I'm going to call it like I see it. And excuse the rant. I just have got this for so many years. I've literally dug it up back to the original founding arguments. It's absolutely illegal in the United States under the Constitution to have any form of immigration restriction. The founding fathers were outraged by the idea that you even had to register. That's how far they went. And I see people waving flags and saying, I support the Constitution, while they're literally supporting the drowning of children in a river because they're afraid of the propaganda that a blue ISIS politician pushed into their soft brain. That takes an incredible amount of ignorance and a lack of love. And so I'm sorry if I got a little too loud with that one. And I see a lot of excuses. And you know what? I'm not the one telling people to shut up. I'm the one being told to shut up. You notice I'm not even blocking people for saying their opinions in here. I'm just calling them out. And you know what? For those of us that were around in the 80s, the 90s, immigrants weren't treated this way. There technically was lots of unconstitutional restrictions, but the mindset of the ranchers and the farmers of, hey, these people do good work. We like them here. Only with the drug war, this is what really kicks my clock off. Only with the advent of the drug war that started really in the 80s and 90s and into the 2000s, didn't start in Mexico until the 2000s under George Bush, because they rejected it. It started around the 70s and 80s in the US. Only until the drug war came did people tolerate that mindset. And when the drug war came, the government created the drug war, created the violence, created the for-profit system. They created literally everything that your flag-waving, ignorant border liver is raging about in the USA. Those same people raging were alive at that time to see when it happened, to see when the violence came, to see when the chaos came, to see when things became unstable. Everything happened at the border was created by your government. And you're sitting there pointing the finger at an immigrant. That's not even rational. So I'll stop, because I know I can't rationalize with people that have that level of blindness. Until they wake up, until something gets through to them, there's not much I can do other than keep speaking the truth. What's my excuse for leaving America? First of all, I didn't leave of America. Mexico's America also, guys. So I think we'll stop the response at that point, since I don't need an excuse, and since most of the time people asking me this question haven't even bothered to think about what is America. But thank you guys all for the good conversation and the comments that allow me. And to be clear, when I rant, I'm really not trying to target any one person in the chat. I'm targeting an ideology of ignorance. And so I know I get a kind of a preacher rant going sometimes, because I'm angry at the amount of suffering that these evil people are causing. And I'm angry when our ignorance, your ignorance, the ignorance of some of the people I see here, the ignorance I see all the time on videos and on the news, I'm angry that our ignorance is allowing that to happen. We should be so vehemently opposing the governments, the Texas government, the California government, the US government, the prisons. We should be so against that, and yet they know how ignorant and how easy we are. So yeah. It's a difficult world. But we came here to talk a little about borders, to talk a little about leaving the USA, to talk a little bit about how propaganda works and how ignorant people are. But let's go to our main topic for the day. Let's go to our main topic for today here on the Gavin Seim Show, and we can talk about all of these things, governments controlling our lives, creating propaganda to manipulate us, to dumb us down, short videos, just really reducing our intelligence, our attention span, and making everything about instant gratification instead of learning. And then we can come over to somebody who has done the opposite of that for many years. And that's Ammon Bundy. And Ammon Bundy was about a month ago. He failed to show up for court, much like I did. But Ammon Bundy waited a lot longer to leave. And I'll be perfectly honest, I see what's coming. I saw the writing on the wall. A lot of people agreed with me on this and even advised me to do it. And I said, you know what? I've become an activist that's catching a lot of attention. And I don't have any desire to be in a prison cell or dead. I don't help my people by doing that. So I left in 2017. I packed up, and within 48, like no one knew, I wasn't like announcing it. Within a 48-hour window, I had loaded everything I could fit into an RV, and I was in another country, which is Mexico. People say, why Mexico? Because Mexico, while there's plenty of corruption, does have a lot more freedom. And it's not like Canada, where they'll just hand you right back on a whim back to the USA. Mexico has a fairly high respect for international refugee law. And so over the following years after that, I became an actual certified refugee from the United States of America in Mexico. This video is about Ammon Bundy, though, because Ammon Bundy has been doing activism for a long time. And while Ammon Bundy and I weren't always on the same page, we didn't always have the same approach, I've always felt like the approach should be like being really open and talking to people and just being right down there with them and putting it all out there and defending every position. Not saying, oh, we're just going to defend ranchers, or we're just going to defend Republican issues, or we're just going to defend gun rights. And I lost a lot of supporters for this over the years because I didn't want to just stay on one issue. I wanted us to talk about human rights. And over the years, Ammon did more and more of that. What started is Ammon and Cliven and Ryan and the Bundy family fighting for their land rights on their ranch, which they had a legitimate claim to because of their grazing rights. Lots of videos been done on that. Virtually every news article you see on Ammon Bundy says, you know, he's found guilty in court. A court said he lied. But we know what the court's doing. The courts are liars. And what happened in the past couple years, after Ammon finally got released from prison, because you know that I was down there with lots of people like Josh Martinez, who they're still railroading, like Kelly Stewart, John Lamb, and we were protesting for Ammon Bundy and the other political prisoners from the Bundy Ranch, from the Oregon Refuge. These were protests, and they constantly, much like they did with the January 6th protest, anybody that's against them, they make it that they're terrorists, and they pit us against each other. Now, I wasn't a Trump supporter, ever. I always knew he was a charlatan. But you take January 6th, and these people were there doing a legitimate protest against a corrupt government. Even if they weren't all there for reasons that I agree with, that didn't matter. And that's always been my take. You can be Black Lives Matter, you can be Native Americans, you can be Republicans, you can be Democrats. The system's corrupt, and you have a right to stand up and say no more. And so they keep beating all of us down and making us as poor, as broken, and possible. And that's what they tried to do with Ammon Bundy. In fact, if you go to the news now, you'll see the mainstream news posers talking about how he fled and how Ammon Bundy's threatening to be violent. I've never seen Ammon Bundy be a violent man in any fashion. He's a peaceful man. He knows how to communicate calmly, but they've done their best to take pretty much everything from Ammon. And what they actually did, I want you to understand this. Let's go to here. These guys right here, St. Luke's Medical Center. You go back a couple years, and there was a protest, okay? And you guys can go to this in Boise, and you can leave your thoughts if you want. I'm not saying what to do or what not to do. I'm just saying these corporate scumbags, And I say corporate scumbags because I'm not saying there's no good doctors there. I'm not saying there's no nurses that care about people. But what happens is most of them get into this and they have to play to the tune of the corporate system in order to stay there, to get the money, to get the benefits. They went in, and Ammon actually just did a video a few days ago. This was 4 hours ago. So he's still putting content out, which is great. I don't know where Ammon is. I don't need to know where Ammon is. My advice for Ammon Bundy and anyone in these kind of situations is leave. Get as far out of their reach as possible. Don't just go to another state. Ignore the courts. Reject their lies. Refuse to show up. I'm not saying to do this for every little misdemeanor and you want to go fight it, but when you like, be sensitive to it. When the time is there and you know they're trying to take everything, they're going to kill you, they're going to put you in prison, they're going to murder you like Lavoy Finicum, they're going to lock you up like Schaefer Cox, like Jeff Winehouse, like Leonard Peltier. We got people that have been in prison for 5s, 10s, 20s years, longer. No one to get out. And here's Ammon's channel, by the way, and he's still posting. And you can actually see, if we go in here, that he goes through and he gives very rational explanations. And he's coming in here, and you can go check this video out after this one.
And a Meridian police officer making plans to sneak baby Cyrus to another hospital because protesters were outside.
First, before the night is over, what I'd rather do is see if we can find another entrance out to the
Now, this is hospital staff at St. Luke's talking about how they can sneak a baby that they have forcibly taken from the parents, how they can sneak it out the back door. Here's that baby right here.
But
and you can see that this baby is doing fine. In fact, in the medical documents, the doctor said he's not in danger. He's not in a bad situation. And St. Luke's Hospital and CPS and Child Services, they wanted to keep him because what do these do? What do these corporate goons do? They make money. Child Services makes an enormous amount of money by keeping children. If you don't believe me, look into the Wenatchee witch hunts from the 90s. The Child Services of Washington State framed something like 50, 60 people for child sex violations by manipulating children to give false testimonies. Only years later, eventually did every single one of those people get exonerated after their children had been taken, their lives and their reputations and their businesses and everything they had been destroyed and stolen from them. Do you know why Child Services did it? Because the quotas were low. They weren't getting enough child abuse cases to justify their budgets. So they invented it. Did they go to prison? Oh, no. No, because this is what the government's allowed to do. People are so busy saying, look, immigrants are taking our stuff. Immigrants are committing crimes. Terrorists are going to invade us, that they don't even stop to realize that the people they're supporting that are feeding them the propaganda of division, of hatred, of racism, of borders control, of prison systems, of police saving us. They don't even realize that those are literally the people trafficking the children, murdering the people in the streets, and robbing you blind. Those are the people who will literally come to your home. This blows my mind if I'm discussing like people's right to travel, immigration, things like that. Oh no, but you have to do this because they're criminals. The people building the propaganda in uniforms, politicians and podiums, these are literally the people who with a straight face will say you have to pay taxes on property you paid for 30 years ago or we'll come and take your home from you and sell it to someone else. The same people saying immigrants are coming to invade your homes are literally invading your homes. So when you come to the Ammon Bundy case, when you come to baby Cyrus and the fact that the corporate goons of St. Luke's were working with Child Services to literally send police and steal this little boy out of the arms of his mother and then try and find reasons to not return him. That's why there was a protest, because word got out because of Ammon Bundy. And so you know what they did, and this is becoming a pattern. I want you guys to be aware of this. This is becoming a pattern, and this is why it's getting so hard to stand, because people are so ignorant. People are so incredibly ignorant. Because when you look at the news stories that are written with snarling faces, as we try to stand up for people's rights, that are absolute parrots of police reports and politician propaganda saying that, look, hospital is on lockdown because of protesters. No, the hospital was on lockdown because they were participating in human trafficking, and people were there to stand up to them, and they were afraid of that. And so you know what they did? They sued Ammon Bundy. And they got damages of $50 million. Now, can you imagine this? This is the new tact, right? It's not just Ammon they've done this to. They've done this to Alex Jones from InfoWars. Again, there's a lot of things that I look at Alex Jones over the years, and I've dealt with the team of Alex Jones back in the Bundy Ranch days, and I could say things, and I could say I don't agree with Alex Jones, I don't agree with his approach a lot of times. I think he's just kind of sensationalized. It doesn't matter. As journalists, we have a right to speak our mind, and as activists and journalists, and they're often, real journalists really are activists, we have a right to speak our mind and not be silenced in the courts over it. And we have to defend that right. And so the new tactic is these corporations, because what we're really doing is we're stepping, and a lot of people don't realize this, we're stepping on the toes of the profits of corporations. That's what Ammon did when he stood against St. Luke's Hospital for their human abuse, for their corruption, for their trying to manipulate people's lives and steal children from their mother's arms in the name of health for their wallets. That's what these people participated in. Are you going to sue me for $50 million too? And this is why I think no one's talking about this, because they go through and they say, Bundy, look at the news stories. Bundy, who falsely claimed last year that a local hospital had kidnapped a dangerously underweight baby from a family of Bundy supporters. Look how they write this stuff. Look at this. This isn't news. Bundy, who falsely claimed last year that a local hospital had kidnapped a dangerously underweight baby from a family of Bundy supporters, said his wife and son's bank accounts have now been emptied by court order. Now, if you had real news, they would be like, hey, money's being taken from people's bank accounts without due process because an activist and a journalist spoke against a corporation. But what are they doing? What's MSN do? What's Fox do? Just depends on what side of the fence the story falls on, right? They support this stuff. And so when you look at people like me or like Ammon Buddies, you go to our Wikipedia pages and you see this journalist spin crap that makes us out to be crazy. But the crazy ones are the people who think they can come into your homes and steal your kids. The crazy ones are the people that think you have to give thousands of dollars every year to continue living in your house even though they do nothing for you. It's extortion money. That's crazy. Crazy is a society that accepts that. Crazy is a society that says police who come to steal people's children, when there's no evidence and no conviction of a crime, they're protecting us. Crazy is saying, I know I don't like having to pay property tax either, but I have to pay this money or they'll come and take my house. Oh, well, what if you defend your property? Oh, they'll kill me. They'll Waco me. They'll Ruby Ridge me. Ignorance and craziness is accepting that that is a normal, sane society. And I don't care what country you're in. And so what they've done with Ammon Bundy, and this is why I wanted to do a short video, and this is why I'm going to keep this fairly short and cut it out. St. Luke's Hospital, the corporation that runs them, sued Ammon Bundy and other people and got a lawsuit against him, not because Ammon Bundy did anything wrong. You have a right to speak out, but because Ammon Bundy made them look bad. Because Ammon Bundy called it like he saw it. And there was a lot of truth to what he said. Now, I wasn't at those protests, and even though I was talking to people that were, and that were involved in them, and I'm going to link to Ammon's video because he summarizes really well just how wicked and evil this hospital officials actually were and how they were colluding with police and child services to hurt this family. These are supposed to be healers. These are supposed to be doctors. Shame on you. You're not doctors. You're destroyers. This isn't healing. This is extortion. And so don't let up. Don't let up on these scumbags right here and the organization that runs them. How dare they call themselves St. Luke? There's none of St. Luke in these people. Does that mean there's no good doctors or no good nurses working in these hospitals? Of course not. There's lots of people stuck in the middle of all this stuff that want to help. But this is a new tactic. Lawfare, I think, is a good word for it. They're waging war using courts. And obviously, if a company with millions upon millions of dollars, a corporation, comes after an individual and throws all the weight they can against a journalist or an activist to say, we want the courts to punish them for speaking against the corporation. And these bought off, crooked cockroaches in robes running around calling themselves a justice system and a judicial authority, when they violated their authority the moment they used it to abuse our life, liberty, and property, and their authority was lost. These crazy people that are called judges, that work for corporations to put millions of dollars in fines, and eventually Ammon left. I don't know where he went. I hope he's not in the US, because they will find you there. So go somewhere out of reach. Do your research. I try to put lots of information on this here, okay? But they won't stop. They won't stop. And I've been talking about Ammon Bundy ever since I've known him from way back in the Bundy Ranch days. If you guys follow my videos over the years, you know that while Ammon was in prison, I did the Bundy story, which was actually a long documentary. Not long, it's about 30 minutes, but it's a documentary narrated by Ammon from jail that I then had to clarify all the audio, and then I mixed it with the video and stuff to make a documentary about what was happening with the Bundy Ranch, with the wildlife refuge. Do I always agree with Ammon? Do I always think he takes the right approach? Do I always think he motivates his boots on the ground in the same way that I would? No, but that's not what matters here. This is a man who's been standing up for years to defend people's rights. And just like people always want to pick me apart because I do something this, or I don't like that, or they don't like myself, I'm not going to do that to anyone else. I'm not going to do it to Alex Jones. I'm not going to do it to Ammon Bundy. I'm not going to do it to the left. I'm not going to do it to the right. If I disagree with something, I'll talk to them about it, or I'll speak about it. But I'm sick and tired of journalists being silenced. And that's what this is. I'm a journalist. Ammon Bundy is a journalist. We're also activists. Investigative journalism is activism, you guys. And it always has been. And it's always been dangerous. And we always have to stand up to it. But I don't think most people realize these absolute psychopaths running St. Luke's Medical Center, they came after Ammon Bundy using all the force of a corrupt legal system. Ammon Bundy has now refused to show up for these kangaroo courts and has left his home and everything he worked to build with his own hands and his own work behind. And the news has the audacity to support this corporation that used that force to get a $52 million defamation lawsuit against Ammon Bundy. That's psychotic. And they need to be held accountable. St. Luke's needs to be held accountable. The police and the child services need to be held accountable. Companies should go bankrupt when they try and use the force of their money to destroy the truth. They should be so exposed. They should be so outed in the light of day that their company no longer functions and they collapse into oblivion. That's what should happen to St. Luke's Hospital. And I have a right to that opinion. You can disagree. You can put your comments down below. You can like, you can subscribe. There has to be a cost for these scumbags, for the politicians, for the people stealing our kids and our families and our homes, and for the corporations in the name of whatever job they're doing, whether it's a tow truck or whether it's a hospital or whether it's a prison complex, who are participating in this theft and extortion. That's my take on the Ammon Bundy situation. Ammon, I hope wherever you are, you stay safe and that you stay out of the hands of Blue ISIS. And thank you for your service. Okay, you guys, that's the main show for tonight. Before I wrap up, thank you, Laith. Keep up the good work. You're a unique gem, bro. On a different note, I invite you to look up EDF Awas from some insightful discussions and debates. I will try to check that out. Let me just make sure everything's in order. And there we are. That's the main show. I'm still here. I'm still live. My throat is raw. I've been a little passionate tonight. And I know in that first part, maybe I should cut that out and make it a separate video as well. I will definitely, look, don't share this video right this second, because that Ammon Bundy segment, come back tomorrow. I'm going to slice that out, and I'm going to have it be its own video separate from all our talk and me scolding people in here about ignorance over immigration and things like that. I'm going to go refill my water here, and you guys can throw your thoughts in there, and we'll talk for just a couple more minutes, but I need to go and wrap up for tonight. And I guess I'm just feeling how much people are hurting. I'm seeing firsthand. Everybody's like, oh, I live on the border. I see this firsthand. You see firsthand the propaganda that you're fed and the violence that you and your government created together because you bought that propaganda and you gave them power. I see firsthand the way immigrants' lives are actually ruined by these unconstitutional policies because I live in Mexico. I see firsthand the broken 40, 50-something-year-old men that went up to the United States in the 90s when they were 15 years old and worked their ass off only to have everything taken away from them and be deported because they got drunk and because they didn't get their papers in order after working their ass off for you and to make a living and to make something better for themselves for 30 years. I see that all the time. And if you cruise around the more northern states, the Sonoras, the big cities more toward the north, you see it more and more. And so the next time somebody from the border tells you, oh, I see how bad it is, you tell them to get their ass down here to Mexico and see what they've actually done to people with their ignorance. The next time someone supports child services and their child trafficking, you tell them to go look up the Wenatchee witch hunts that happened in the 90s, and that things like that are still happening all the time. Next time somebody says, oh, that Ammon Bundy guy, he's a nut job, tell them to grow a pair and try to stand up for somebody themselves and see how much it hurts and see how much you lose. Okay, guys, looking over your comments. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into a whole other video on Assange, but it's the same kind of crap. He's still sitting in a prison. And we say, oh, we're civilized societies. We have laws. We have processes. We have rules for extradition. We have refugee process. You know why he's sitting in a prison? Because every country he went to violated those laws and ignored those rules. And he's sitting in a prison because he opposed the empire. And everywhere he went, absolutely ignored their constitutions and their laws for money and for power. And people have the audacity to say, no, they're protecting us, they're just doing the best they can. No, they're not. They're cockroach scumbags who are doing whatever they can to maintain power and control. It's been happening for a long time. And yeah, we could do a whole nother video on the Israel thing. I've been posting a little bit about this on my personal Facebook page and my Gavin Seim for Liberty Facebook page. There's so much division, and there always has been, it seems like, over the Israel thing. The idea that even from a Christian, there's this whole ignorant mindset of like, as Christians, we have to blindly support Israel, the Israeli state, whatever they do. That's not what God told us to do. That's ridiculous. It's completely inconsistent. There's no group of people who just gets to blindly abuse people. And so the people that are saying, hey, wait a minute, these IDF psychopaths murdering children and invading people's homes, that's not okay. And then the conservative right is like, oh no, it's Israel. We have to let them. That's not even sensible. The psychotic political state that calls itself Israel is just another group of criminals committing crimes. Now, and then so if you say, oh, wait a minute, no, this isn't okay. What we're seeing coming out of Israel isn't okay. Oh, you support Hamas. No. I support people. Supporting Israel is about supporting people. I also support the rights of Jews. And I've never got on board, ever since I started doing this, there's always been somebody trying to get me to speak out against Jews. Like, oh, it's the Jews doing this. No, they're just people too. And I would wager that a large portion of Jews do not agree with what's going on from the Israeli government right now. Just like there's a lot of us gringos that don't agree with our psychotic United States because we bomb and abuse the whole world too. So let's just try and keep that in perspective. But I don't want to get into that tonight because I'm not an expert on it. Although it doesn't take a whole lot of looking to be like, wait a minute, something's very wrong. We're being fed propaganda here. But you do have to be really careful because people love making propaganda to hate on Jews too. And that's been happening for a long, long time. And then we do the same against Muslims. Oh, they're just all coming to terrorize us. No, they're not. That's just dumb. It's just ignorance. And we have to... 9/11 was the huge influx. Everyone's a terrorist, but especially brown people. That had a huge effect on places like Mexico. And that's what they used. In the name of us saying, no, they're coming to terrorize us, you know what they actually did? You know what they actually did? They took your freedoms. They took your Fourth Amendment. They took your rights. They took your right to travel. They set up checkpoints. You got idiots rifling through your bags, dumping out your baby milk to get on an airplane. This is the world we created because we allowed politicians. And no, Jim, that's not what the Bible teaches. You're taking a couple of out of context points that were regarding God and the Jews and trying to make those somehow that a psychotic state that calls itself a group of psychotic politicians and their army that calls itself Israel somehow has a free pass to abuse everyone else. That's utterly ridiculous, and it's godless, and it's not in the Bible. So yeah, I'm not even going to go there tonight because it's so antichrist to be peddling this stuff. God says you defend people that are being abused, the weak, the innocent, the widow, and the poor. I see a lot of that in Palestine right now. God says that one of the top 10 things he hates is those that shed innocent blood. It's top 10. And I think we need to not hate anybody. And I think everybody, everywhere, is being manipulated. And I'm sick of it. And I'm sick of people's pain. And I wish there was more that I could do about it. And I hope that someday I will be able to. But it certainly won't be from ad revenue on YouTube, because videos like this are not what get traffic. And the way you become a popular public speaker is not by speaking like I do. But I hope you guys will go out as we wrap up tonight. Go love your neighbor. Go care about someone. Go educate someone who's ignorant about police, about immigration, about it being okay to abuse other people, about the propaganda. And let's try to do it with some love and patience, because I know that it's easy to get angry. Thank you to our channel backers and supporters. People have a right to life, liberty, and property wherever they are, and whoever's violating that is the criminal. And there's a lot of conspiracy theories. There's a lot of conspiracy facts. There's a lot of things that are hard to sift through. We live in the age of information, but true, honest, accurate information is harder to get than ever. And I think we're really lacking in learning how to love each other and how to be kind and how to defend the innocent, the weak, the fatherless, and the widow, and how to be like Christ. And it's tough because the world seems pretty confused, and I feel confused sometimes because sometimes it seems like the more I try, the least I accomplish. All right, you guys, peace. Hang in there.